Despite these smiles for the so-called family photo, this is a picture of an historic failure. Apec leaders met in Papua New Guinea to talk trade and strengthen economic relations. But for the first time in its 29-year history, the leaders couldn't agree on a joint statement, something they normally do after every meeting.
There was broad agreement on how we need to support our citizens and work forward towards better cooperation. But I don't think it'll come as a huge surprise that there are differing visions on particular elements in regards to trade, and those prevented there from being full consensus on the communique document.
A trade war between the US and China got in the way, but US Vice President Mike Pence says America won't back down.
We've taken decisive action to address our trade imbalance with China. We've put tariffs on $250 billion in Chinese goods, and we could more than double that number. But we hope for better. The United States, though, will not change course until China changes its ways.
In a draft statement, the US wanted to include strong language against what it says are unfair trade practices by the Chinese. And Beijing tried to make sure there was opposition to the Trump administration's America First policies.
We must take a clear-cut and firm stand to say no to protectionism and unilateralism and protect the WTO-centered multilateral trading system.
The world's two biggest economies got competitive in other ways. The US unveiled a $1.7 billion plan to provide electricity and internet to much of Papua New Guinea. It's the first step of a plan that rivals China's trillion-dollar Belt and Road spending in the region.
Last year, President Trump laid out a vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific, and the commitment of the United States of America to this region of the world has never been stronger.
Japan, Australia and New Zealand will fund the project with the US. It would boost access to electricity from 13 to 70% of the country by 2030. Now that project may be a sign cooperation is possible, but if the trade battle means the Apec summit was left at an impasse, it's unlikely to be over anytime soon. Arabella Munro, TRT World.
And Jeffrey Taco joins me now from Atlanta in the US. He's the editorial director at the American Institute for Economic Research. Good to have you back on the program. Now, the fact that this APEC summit didn't eventuate or come up with a communique at the end of it may seem a little inconsequential, but is it a sign that things between the US and China are getting worse rather than getting any better?
Well, yes, it is a sign that things are getting worse. This is very disappointing, even devastating, even dangerous, actually, for the world economy. And the sad thing is that this is exactly what the U.S. Administration currently in charge has favored from the very beginning. I mean, they decided to start a new quasi-Cold War about 2 years ago, and everything is going exactly according to script. And it's very dangerous. I'm very happy for Papua New Guinea and this new trade deal, but this is small potatoes. China is what matters, and this is a real tragedy unfolding.
Yeah, let's look at that project that you just referred to, the Papua New Guinea electrifying project, because the US says it's helping to commit to a $1 billion project. I mean, that really pales in significance compared to the $1 trillion that China is spending in the region.
That's right.
I mean, does the US seriously think that it's going to compete with China and its Belt and Road Initiative?
This is a very good question, and it sounds crazy. You almost have to be an American to understand just how much people actually believe this in Washington, D.C. But it's completely dangerous. You know, these are the times in which you wish that you could do kind of controlled experiments in economics, because I think that the current pressure on financial markets in the U.S. right now, we're seeing a lot of red, a lot of bleeding all over the corporate sectors. I think a lot of it has to do with the protectionism that has gone on in 2018, these tariffs, which are a complete reversal of everything the U.S. has done since World War II. And the incredible thing about the summit that just happened this weekend is that Mike Pence actually sat before all these leaders of these countries and threatened to double tariffs against China. Now, this is like for the U.S. a kind of national suicide. It's extremely dangerous. It reflects a kind of hysteria about ideology and hegemonic ambitions for the planet, but that are going to completely fail. And I know people who are currently working in the Trump administration who are begging for some kind of reversal of these policies, but they can't seem to get through. It's what I've written for 2 years, 3 years now.
Yeah.
Hard-nosed protectionist ideology is a very difficult nut to crack. But now it seems like this ideology is cracking the world economy, and it's very dangerous.
Yes, and just briefly, Jeffrey Tucker, we're kind of hearing mixed messages between both Donald Trump and Mike Pence. As you say, Mike Pence was quite hawkish with his threat of doubling the tariffs on China, yet recently Donald Trump kind of hinted that he was looking forward to sealing a deal on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Argentina later this month. Are we seeing divisions within the Trump administration on how this will end with China?
I don't think so. I think what Trump is doing is a kind of a triangulation. He is a dedicated protectionist, and then when he gets in trouble for it, if people call him on it, then he goes back to this art of the deal thing. But we've seen now for 12 months what he really thinks, and he is interested in a new Cold War with China. You can tell based on how he keeps moving the goalposts, with China. He has something like 17 different complaints. Basically, there's no chance for compliance for China at this point. You hear the exasperation in the voice of a spokesman for China. And it's very sad. I can tell you as an American, we've been historically dedicated to free trade, at least in the 20th century. Yeah. And to hear China speaking about this topic in a way that's much more coherent than the U.S. Presidential administration right now is actually very devastating and demoralizing.
Okay, I guess we'll see what happens in Argentina in a couple of weeks' time. Jeffrey Tucker in Atlanta, thank you as always.